Hello, Facebook. It's Friday. You know what that means. That means it's happy hour. And today you've got your old pal McGee and the lovely and talented Miss Beth Simmons. Dino is on location, maybe possibly joining us in a little while, but as of right now, you're just stuck with the two of us.
Yep, you are.
How are you doing today, Beth?
I'm doing pretty good. But I do want to start our show off on a very down, like it's a down note. It's very sad. Biz Markie, very famous rapper, one of my favorites, and we all know the song.
You got what I need. But you say he's just a friend. But you say he's just a friend. Oh, baby, you.
Yeah.
That was for you, Biz.
Yes.
Rest in peace, brother.
Yes. He just passed away. Several outlets have been reporting it. The first on the story, as usual, TMZ. They basically said a family source told them around 6:25 Eastern time that he took his last breath. He was having a really hard fight with his diabetes. He's a type 2 diabetic, or was a type 2 diabetic. And so that contributed to what had happened and why he was in the hospital. Now, they didn't go into further details. I'm sure the family will do an official statement soon.
Yeah, so. I'm trying to as quickly as I can bring up a link for it.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I wasn't prepared for that when it happened just as we were going live. We saw it. So apologies for not being more prepared on that particular thing. It says the clown prince of hip hop dead at 57. 57 years old. That's a damn shame, but clearly a classic, iconic American. He was one in a million, to say the least.
Yeah.
So rest in peace, Biz.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, I knew he was suffering and dealing with some ailments because a few weeks back they were talking about how he was hospitalized. And then there was a scare that, there's a death rumor. And then the family came out and said, no, he's still alive. The rumors are false. And then this happens. So
yeah, it's a sad thing. Unfortunately, we've had quite a few rock and roll deaths this week from Cinderella. Oh my goodness. I didn't screen grab anything.
Well, if you want to go to my page, I actually did post that Jeff Labar had passed away at age 58. And I mean, he was a phenomenal guitarist. I can't even believe it. I did not expect that at all. Seeing that took me by surprise. I'm sure it took you by surprise too. Now, officially, when I had seen the article, they said no cause of death has been released. I haven't followed up on the story, so I don't know if they finally released it. I can definitely double check if you're curious.
I'm looking up right now. I hate to say it. I'm going to go to the Rolling Stone one instead of this TMZ.
Yeah.
Even though TMZ probably has more information.
The interesting thing about TMZ, they always break the stories first. They have that, but they don't always have all the information when they're breaking the story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm trying to make it. It's taking a minute for it to come up. So, and then there was somebody else passed also, I saw in the rock and roll world.
Yeah.
And I can't place off the top of my head. And I'm sorry, I've had a rough week myself. It's been a rough week for people dying. So,
it has been a rough week. That is for sure. The other person you were talking about was actually Gary Corbett.
Gary Corbett.
Widely known for keyboards on a few Kiss tours.
Yes. And he was the guy that unfortunately wasn't cool enough to get makeup and be on stage. He played all his parts on the side of the stage behind the curtain, because God forbid that a rock and roll band shows that we're actually, and he actually played with Cinderella as well. So that's a double hit for the band Cinderella. The links aren't coming up as fast as I want them to, so I'm just going to kind of let it go.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, there's
with regards to the links not coming up, I guess we could always blame it on the solar flares. I don't know if you caught that story earlier in the week. They were saying that the solar flares would possibly impact our cell phones and our GPSs. I didn't really experience any issues, but I remember when I used to live overseas in Italy, actually that was an issue with AFN TV, and I actually worked for AFN radio and TV. They would say during the solar flare issue that it would disrupt your satellite, your feed from AFN, and it did a few times. I remember those days, but here I didn't experience anything going, weird with my cell phone other than the usual stuff, the spammers calling.
Well, and see, the only thing that I had an issue with today was when I was driving down Tanca Verde towards, heading towards like Bear Canyon area. Yeah. I had a little bit of static, a little bit of, but nothing major enough to really be a big deal. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I mean, technology, you guys see how much grief I go through every week with just my computer. So yeah. Yeah. I actually just reached out to a friend who works on computers and said, can I drop my Mac off to you by Monday? Because I'm leaving on Tuesday. You can keep it all week. You don't have to be in a rush. Just figure out what the hell is wrong with it and make it so that it works again. And he's like, yeah, I should be able to do that. He's the one that saved it years ago when the battery died and said, look, I got it set up so it retrieved all the stuff that you were looking for, but just you can only use it when it's plugged in. So that's it.
I do have to wonder though. I know for my Mac, I recently did some updates on a few items on my Mac computer and I noticed it running a little slower. So do you remember that period of time where iPhones were starting to run slower on the older phones when you were doing updates?
Yep.
I thought to myself, are they doing this with the computer updates too? Because it would make sense. Our computers are really old. They probably want us to buy a new one. Yep. Keep investing. I get it.
Oh, of course. It's genius level marketing on one side of it. Mm-hmm. But for those of us that can't afford to replace an iPhone or an iMac or whatever on a regular basis, for those of us that don't have expendable income, it's a difficult thing. It's like, it's funny. I had the boy in the car and we're driving past like a 1980s Volvo. Yeah. And this car looked like it had just rolled off the showroom floor. Wow. Like no dings, no dents. It was even the sound, the engine was purring. And I'm like, see, they made that car to last forever. That car's got to be at least 30, 35 years old and it's still running. I highly doubt that they've replaced much of anything other than normal scheduled maintenance kind of stuff.
And that's the one thing I must say with the older cars, the steel frames of those cars are so sturdy. I feel safe.
Well, I told him, I said, that car can drive through a brick wall. I seen it. And he's like, what do you mean you seen it? You drove into a brick wall? And I was like, no, but I watched my friend drive into a building when they were leaving and go, okay. And they weren't even drunk. They just drove it. They just they thought they put it in reverse and they put it in drive and took out half of a garage. And I'm like, and they still drove that car home. I'm like,
wow.
Yeah.
So that is impressive.
They made Volvos to last. Cause like the first thing he said was, isn't that one of the cars we own on Forza on his video game? Yeah. And I'm like, similar. I'm like, we have the sedan version, but yeah. And it's like,
and then, and they do say Volvos are like one of the safest vehicles, right?
Always have been. But they built them to last forever. Yeah. Like that's the thing. And they don't do that anymore. They build them to last 10 years. Then you have to upgrade to something new, or it's like, it's one of those things where they make things so that it'll get to a certain point, but then everything's going to shit the bed so that you end up having to replace it, because how are you going to make money if we don't have to consistently keep going with it?
So I'll admit,
So
like, I'm a big fan of having bigger cars. You know, when I was overseas in Europe, the thing was to have smaller cars because there's never any parking and everyone drives a small car in Europe. But here, I have to say, there was that one accident that someone hit me at 55 miles per hour when I was stopped from behind, put me into a 4-car accident. I believe if I did not have my Jeep Cherokee, I think I
yeah,
could have been, if I had a Kia, I might have been dead, a small Kia
yeah,
at that force and with the huge car that hit me from behind.
I believe it.
It's
Like
nuts.
Dean Durr just said, he's like, so will my 92 Chevy truck. Like it'll drive through a brick wall. There's certain cars that like, and then like the dent that's in the front fender of my truck.
Yeah.
That happened because I caught the post. For those watching elsewhere, we don't have garages when you live in condo communities. If you're lucky, you get like an overhang type thing that keeps your car from being burnt to a crisp from the sun. Well, and they have to have posts every couple of spaces, and I happened to just catch it, and it left a big old dent in the front of my car. That's how that dent happened.
Wait,
Nobody,
did you take the post out?
No, the post is still standing, which made it even, what really even made it worse was that it was at the ex's old condo, not mine. So it was just even that much more pissed off about it.
It's like she put like some bad juju on you. Like,
well, it was just like somebody was parked in the spot that I normally park in, which was away from the post. So I ended up parking in closer, and I was like, son of a bitch. I'm just like, I'm like, I hate this person even more now. But yeah, it's just, it sucks. They just don't make things like they used to. And, I mean, think about the fact that I can't even plug my headphones into
they do
I
that
have to get an adapter.
You have to get AirPods. Those are your options.
Exactly. And it sucks because you know what? I can't wear those little earbuds like you do. I can't. I have to have space around my ears because they're so sensitive from so much damage done to them over the years, and then, that I don't even like them being touched anymore.
And then I will say, even though I do enjoy wearing the AirPods, I am a little nervous on what's happening when I'm putting these things in my ear. These have the wire, but the wireless, you don't know like what long-term effects that'll cause for your hearing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's more just about comfort. I have to have big headphones that go all the way around my ears, because even my smaller ones, that's the reason why I bought these when I got the job, was because I couldn't wear my little ones anymore. It was fine if I'm going for a run or I'm doing my workout for an hour at a time here and there, something like that. But for a long period of time, for a 6-hour shift, I needed comfortable cushioned headphones, and they just weren't doing it. They weren't doing the trick.
Well, and it's funny if you look at trends, like at one point, the bigger the headphones, the cooler you look going around listening to your music. And then it went to the smaller ones, and that's great. It goes back and forth, even with phone size. I started with a small phone. I went to a big phone. Now they're marketing the small phone again. It's like, are you kidding me?
And it's funny because like I went to go check to see whether or not my bill was ready for, if it was time to pay my cell phone bill, make sure everything gets paid before I leave on Tuesday. And that way I don't have to worry about it. But because I don't do auto pay, I don't trust them having access to my accounts. No. Not in my house. But yeah, so I'm like, I go to check it and they're like, you're ready for an upgrade. And I'm like, the fuck I am. I just paid this phone off. Like, I'm not buying another phone and putting myself back into debt. I'll rock this guy until it dies. And like, I still like I still have my iPhone 3. The only reason why I replaced it was because the screen cracked. It's my iPod in the car.
I'm with you. I have my old iPhone too. Well, I have my old iPhone because when I went into the store, I said, so what can I get for this? And they're like, nothing. Like, you almost have to pay us to take that phone off your hands.
Yeah, it's funny because I kept using that cracked screen. All I did was take packing tape and put it across the screen, and it worked just fine. It was hard to see and read things because there's a, it's all spider webbed, but
you can send it in and they can replace your screen.
Yeah, for $150, $200.
That's why you get the insurance. Pay the insurance for a month and have them fix it.
That's it. It's I did the same thing. Like when I finally got to this one, like the last one that this one replaced, I bought it on like eBay for like $50. It was an iPhone 5, and I like, it seems like I go every other 3, 5, and 7. So like I've got a 7, and I'm like, it does everything I need it to do. What the hell more do I need? I don't need to pilot a spaceship.
It's interesting 3, 5, 7. So
it's just dumb luck that happened to be, like when I had to go replace the 5, I'm like, when I went to get the 3, I still had a Motorola Razr. And I think I might have told this story before, but somebody called my phone at like 4:00 in the morning. I had just gotten home from the bar. I'm in the shower. But if somebody calls my phone at 4:00 in the morning, I'm expecting dead or in jail.
Yes.
So I answered it, and my face was wet. So when I put the phone up against my face, I shorted out the keypad. And so like I went 24 hours without a phone, which at that point was no big deal. I couldn't access Facebook and everything on that.
Was it a person in jail? Did you ever find out?
No, it was a wrong number.
Oh.
It was a wrong goddamn number.
It was a late night booty call.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't, believe me, because I would have looked at the phone number and said, "Oh, okay, good thing I'm getting a shot." But then again, if I was already home, I wasn't going back out. Yeah. But anyway, so like I went to get the 3, and I'm like, "What's the cheapest phone you got?" That's all I need. I just need the cheapest phone you got. I'm Arab. Okay. We don't spend money that we don't need to spend, and we'll haggle all day about it. And so I just kind of was like, "Well, what's the cheapest phone you got?" And he's like, "Well, we've got the iPhone 3, it's going to be 99. And I'm like, 99, I'm not paying $100 for a phone. Like my last phone, they gave me my last phone because I had like 3 upgrades going. And he's like, "No, sir, 99 cents. And I was like, "I'll take it." I bought my first iPhone for $1.
Okay. Now I'm jealous because, my cheapest iPhone was like $349. I don't think I've ever, and I remember going to the stores saying at one point, "Don't I get a free phone if I, upgrade or something?" Well, they don't really do that anymore.
One of those things where like I had been with AT&T since it was Cellular One. I got my first cell phone in 1994. 94 and 95. It was the old brick one.
Yeah.
And like for $150, I got a phone. I got the charger that goes into the car, the cigarette lighter, when cars used to have cigarette lighters. Now they're just there for that reason, is to plug in a phone. And like all the bells and whistles, it even had like a charger that you could slide it onto and it would sit there. So like when I was at home, I had the charger for home, and like it had all these accessories, and I'm like, this is great. This is great. And I had my phone in my car. I'm delivering pizzas, and I had a phone in my car at 18. So I've been with you for all this time. Why aren't you giving me free shit?
Yeah.
Like if I've been paying you faithfully for 25 years, why aren't you giving me free shit? Like I've earned it.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. So I was talking to a friend back home today, and we were talking about my service being a little, spotty here where I live. And I said, it's Verizon. And she's like, "Oh yeah. Remember when they were actually really good?" And
yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. And then she went on to say, "I remember when you first started with Sprint, years in high school, right? I was a Sprint customer back then." And, she's like, "You kept that plan rolling forever." Like, and that's true. When they started coming out with unlimited plans, I was still paying $30 for 300 minutes. And everyone's like, "Just change it over." And I'm like, no, I'm afraid to. I'm just going to stick to this. I'm just sticking. Can you believe? I just can't even believe there was a time where we paid per minute.
The biggest mistake I ever made was going, and it seemed like the best deal at the time. But I had grandfathered in my plan, which by that point was unlimited everything.
Yes.
Okay. And it was only like $30 a month. But we figured out that if we did the family plan with the discounts that we would get from me being a volunteer firefighter and from her being a nurse, that it was going to be down to like $15 a month a piece.
Wow.
And that it was going to be that we could add on, like at the time, my mom didn't have a cell phone. So we could have gotten her one. We could get one for the kids when it was time for them, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing is that we put it in her name. So when I had to, like, when we split up, I had to get her written permission to keep my phone number, which I had for at least 4 years before I'd ever met her. It was like the number that I got when I moved back to Syracuse from New York City.
Yeah.
And I've had that, like the number that you have for me is the same number I've had since 2004.
Wait a minute. So is she still paying $15 a month for
no.
everything? Oh, okay.
No. And she changed over to a different plan anyway.
Okay.
So
I mean, if she could have kept that, she should have for life.
It was, well, and that's the thing is I think somehow it just, everything went to shit and she just changed everything. And I was like, it wasn't that big of a deal, except for it took forever for me to get another unlimited plan that made sense. And finally I'm like, all right, when I got the new phone, I lumped it all together and made one monthly payment and it was worth it. Plus now I get my HBO Max for free with my phone. And so it's great.
Yeah.
Well,
and so these plans, the unlimited plans, they go up, they go down. Sometimes you get a great deal, but like once you're grandfathered into a plan, a good one, it's like, you have to keep that forever. It's like an apartment in San Francisco. I don't know if you ever experienced this in New York, but there was an apartment in San Francisco that all of my friends would pass down through friends, right? Because they had rent control there.
Yep.
And so
you just sublet forever.
Yep. You keep adding people to the lease, getting off the lease. But then my friend called me and said, they're finally going to get rid of it. I'm like, what? You have to find someone to rent it. Please find someone to rent it. It's the cheapest rent you'll have in San Francisco.
Well, and it's funny because I had one experience like that. When I lived in New York City, the girl that I was dating at the time, may she rest in peace. She just passed away last week, I found out. But the apartment that she was in was that kind of an apartment where it was rent controlled. And it was like, she ended up there because the guy she dated years before me had that apartment that he had gotten from his friend, and so on and so forth. So when we started looking, because like when you live in Brooklyn, I lived in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, which is like by the Verrazano Bridge. It's the southernmost part of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And where she lived was up in Washington Heights, which is by the George Washington Bridge. It took an hour and a half to get from one apartment to the other. So it got to a point where we went, look, this is a long distance relationship. We either need to move in together or break up. Like there's no other options that we either need to move in together at this point. We'd been together like 6 months. And I was like, we either need to move in together or we need to just split up and I need to find a girl in Brooklyn.
I have to say though, an hour is not that bad when you consider traffic in New York.
90 minutes and 4 transfers on trains. I had to take the R to the W to the D to the A. It was
awful.
Torturous. So it ended up getting to a point where we started looking for an apartment, and this section of Brooklyn called Red Hook, which is a little rough around the edges, especially back in 2003, 2002, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like they had just taken this old warehouse and remodeled it into loft apartments. And the starting rent on this loft apartment, $500 a month.
You're kidding me. I can't
shit
even
you
believe
not.
it.
Because it was in such a bad neighborhood, not to mention the fact that you had to walk 2 blocks to the main to 4th Avenue and then 3 blocks up to get to the train. The nearest train was 5 blocks away in a bad neighborhood. And so it was one of those things where like,
it's worth it though, for rent that cheap. It's so worth it.
Well, if and because I knew Keith was going to chime in, Red Hook, now I want a Tazplex. If I was Taz, okay, I could handle of living in, I just suplex everybody. But as I'm going to look at this apartment, there was a car that you could tell had previously been on fire within the last 24 hours. And I was just kind of like, all I'm picturing is me coming home at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, with a wad full of cash from a bartending gig,
Yeah,
or
that would make
or
sense.
my little Irish girlfriend walking through this neighborhood alone from work. And I was just like, yeah, this isn't going to work. But
I,
like, if I had gotten that apartment, I would be renting it out for probably $2,000 a month right now.
well, if your girlfriend is small like me, I can imagine a homeless man going up to her and saying, "Get out of this neighborhood, take $1." Like that happened to me back home.
Well, the funny thing is that, the girl in question grew up in Washington Heights. She lived in New York City her entire life.
Yeah.
So like when we had the big power outage in 2003 where New York City went black, she was in the midst of coming home and she was on the train. She had to stop in Harlem and walk from Harlem all the way up to Washington Heights, 50 blocks. 50 blocks she had to walk, and guys are hooting and hollering, and she's just like, yeah, you ain't got enough for me to deal with, and just kept on walking and like, and just like, spouting off right back at all these guys like it was nothing.
Or she could be like, you don't want me, I'm a jerk. Bye.
Yeah, well, oh no, she was all piss and vinegar. It was hysterical. and I'm like, well, why didn't you call me? I would at least started walking and met up with you. And she's like, for what? She's like, the cell phone reception was garbage because, like with the power outage, everything's just kind of off. It was just weird, man. It was weird.
It's funny you mentioned the hooting and hollering because I was watching this movie recently, and the star of the movie, someone hoots and hollers at her, and she turns around, goes back to the guy and says, "Okay, let's go out to dinner. Take me out right now." And he's like, "Oh, I didn't expect you to come back." Like, and she's like, "Well, do you want to go out or not?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know. I don't know if I want to anymore." And her point was, "Well, then don't hoot and holler at me."
Yeah, but if you ain't gonna back it up, don't say it.
Yeah. I would love to see if that rule of thumb works, but
well, and it's kind of funny because like if I've never really been that guy, where unless it was somebody that I knew and I was trying to be funny. Yeah. Like if I saw you walking down the street and you were completely oblivious to the fact that I'm like parallel to you on the other side of the street, I'd go, "Yo, Blondie, why don't you shake that ass on over here?" Something like that until you like paid attention and went, "Oh, it's you, fuck off, asshole." Like, and like as a joke. But to a complete stranger, I'd be terrified to say that to a woman. Like I would never, unless I've got a bar in front of me, then I was flirty, but that was it.
How would you feel if women did that to you though? And all men, like if we, reverse the roles?
You know what? Honestly, it didn't bother me because I used to get that when I was the young, cute bartender at like 19 years old, where I get women that are my age now, like, yeah. Can you get me that? I want the beer that's on the bottom shelf. The one with that one right there. Oh yeah. And watching me bend over in a pair of tight jeans or whatever. And I knew what I was doing. I was wearing my work jeans. Why? Because my ass looked great in it. And I made an extra couple of bucks off the, like,
I see how it is.
It's the same reason why you don't see very many female bartenders without a scoop neck. It's the same thing. I don't have boobs, so I wore tight jeans instead and showed off my nice butt.
But I believe you can still make just as much cash without showing off all that.
Well, in a perfect world, yeah. If you're really good at what you do, you should be able to make that much money. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, no matter how fast and how good I was, you put a girl next to me and she's going to make more money then she's going to get more in tips than I would, no matter how hard I was running.
No, that depends, because if you pour stronger, I think you would get more tips. Oh no!
Again, you're stealing from the owner. You knew I was going to yell. You see, she kind of pulled her headphone away. She knew I was going to start yelling. No, you can't do that. That's not how it works.
It happens. You know it happens. I know it happens.
Well, but and out here, it's a lot different. Like I still remember one of the first bars that I went into when I came out here was the Bashful Bandit.
Yeah.
And I happened, I went with a friend of a friend to kind of start scouting bars and see what kind of, what it was like. And the bartender's like, I'm like, yeah, can I have a shot of Bullet and a Miller High Life? And she went like this, as she's pouring. And all of a sudden I come back and the shot's like this. And I'm like, Jesus, like that's a 3-ounce shot. Like that's 3 shots in one thing. And she's like, $6. I'm like, $6 for a triple shot in a bottle of beer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, here's a 10. Keep the change.
Well, and okay, I have to ask you, I went to, I don't know where I went, but I remember seeing the menu and it was like, oh yes, I remember. It was somewhere on Grant and Campbell. It was a really cute little restaurant. And and so they had this IPA with a pineapple rum shot. And you pay like, it's similar to what you're saying, but I think it was $10 for both. And I said, that's interesting because the IPA, I don't remember the name of it, but it matched the pineapple rum. And I said, are you supposed to put the shot in the beer? And they're like, yeah, you can do that. It tastes better. Have you ever heard of such a thing?
Well, that's a Boilermaker.
Yeah.
They've been doing that for hundreds of years, where you just get a whiskey and a beer and they would that's the original drop shot.
So I didn't realize that, because I've done that too. And I take the whiskey and then I drink the beer. I thought that's how you're supposed to do it. I didn't realize you put it in the beer. Okay. So I am way
a true Boilermaker. You drop the whiskey and you drop the shot of whiskey into, and that's when you'd get the little 1 ounce shot glasses, the tiny shot glasses. Yes. And then if you see the one with the white stripe around it, that's a 2 ounce shot glass. Because from the line to the rim is another ounce worth of liquor. So if you're getting a full pour to that, then you're getting more than what you want. And I remember so many times I was the only person that was allowed to free pour in most of the bars that I've ever worked in.
Yeah.
Why? Because I was a deadeye. I could nail it every single time.
Yeah.
And it took years of perfecting that, of learning my count and knowing what my count was for what a shot should be.
Yeah.
And if you looked at that one, if you saw my normal pour, it was just over the white line of a shot, of a pouring shot glass.
Yeah.
And so whenever anybody would complain about my pour, I go, okay. I had one guy that drank cognac straight, but he wanted it like a shot. He wasn't sipping it. He wanted, I think it was Courvoisier or Hennessy or
that's
whatever.
Weird. Is that normal for people to drink it like that?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes it's no different. Basically, cognac is just high-end whiskey. Yeah. There's slight differences to it, but for all intents and purposes, the average drinker, it's just half the time they're going for the name. They don't even necessarily like it. They just know that Courvoisier is fancier than Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
It tastes equally as bad.
I can't imagine just doing a shot of it. I thought you were supposed to sip it. You
are supposed to sip it
with your little pipe and your.
Well, and it's kind of funny because I did have one customer that when they ordered that, I poured it in a shot glass because I had gotten so used to the younger crowd asking for it as a shot that this lady, and she was an older Black woman. She's like, damn, I can't even get a cognac snifter. And I'm like, I am so sorry. I said, I am on autopilot because these kids do not order it the way it's supposed to be. They're mixing it with Coca-Cola. They're putting it on ice. All the things that you're not supposed to do with cognac, they're doing.
Wow.
I said,
it's a waste of money.
And I told her, I said, my sincerest apologies. And it was one of the few times where I comped a complete stranger. I said, you know what? Here you go. And I took the Courvoisier, the snifter, turned it on its side, poured straight from the bottle the way that you're supposed to measure it.
Yeah.
And then poured the other one on top. And I said, your extra's on me. I said, I apologize for not being the best bartender that I can be in this particular scenario. And she's like, yeah, all right. And gave me a nice tip for it, but at the same time, it was one of those things where I could eyeball without a pourer how much a shot's going to be in the glasses that we used.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. And that's why giving away stuff, don't complain about your shot. If your bartender is free pouring your drink, that means that they are trusted well enough that they can do their job properly and they're going to give you a good drink. If you complain about my shot, I'm measuring every fucking drink you ever have for the rest of your existence, even after you apologize for it.
Yeah.
Because I had one regular that did that and I started measuring. I'm going, okay, you don't trust my shot. Here you go.
It's funny because I've been the opposite. I've been so lucky with every bartender I've ever run into. Sometimes it's like, oh no,
pretty girl. Pretty girl.
No. And sometimes it's like, this is way too strong. What do I do? This is too strong.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that, there's too many there's too many bartenders out there that think that that's the answer. And I'll tell you what, like one of my dearest friends of all time, my friend Ted, again, rest in peace. He used to come over to our house. Like that's how close of a friend he was. He started off as a customer and became one of my closest friends of all time. But he would come over to the house to watch wrestling pay-per-views. And he's significantly older than I am. But like, so he was kind of like that father figure. Yeah. We shared a birthday. And it was funny because like we'd go to shows or something. And I'd go like, you got the tickets, Dad. And the guy who's like looking at him turns around, looks past me. And all of a sudden there's an older black man standing behind me that I'm calling Dad. And he just kind of would like, he'd get awkward. And he's like, all right, son, you're buying the first round of beers. And I'm like, okay, Pops. Cool. But like, he would come over to the house. And so we always had a bottle of vodka and tonic water because that was his drink. Yeah. And one day my ex poured him a drink and he's going, Jesus Christ, she thinks she's helping me or is she trying to kill me? Because she just poured so heavy. And I'm like, he got used to me pouring the perfect shot every time. And he could pace out his night because he knew how I poured. Exactly. He knew that if my uncle was going to be behind the bar, he was going to get maybe 3 drinks before he was shit-faced because the old man had 2 ways of pouring. He'd either pour in a shot and dump it in perfectly measured, or he's like, hey, how you doing? It's good to see you. How you been? Oh my goodness. It's been so long. And
that's the bartender I like.
And you end up with like a half a glass of vodka and a splash of tonic. And you're like, I can't drink that.
Yeah.
So more is not always.
It's not always,
better.
But sometimes if you're on vacation, it's nice.
I'd still like to pace my life out. I want to be able to have 3 or 4 drinks and not be in bed after an hour.
Yeah. Well, and speaking about, bringing, your regulars from the bar home and hanging out with them, my dream, and this sounds crazy, my dream is that our show would really kick up a notch, right? And everyone who started with us from the beginning will all take a vacation, like an all-inclusive vacation, go to Mexico or Costa Rica or somewhere. Wouldn't that be fun?
Well, think about this. We've been doing this for almost 6 months now. Yeah. And the 3 of us have only been in the same room twice in that period of time. Yeah. So getting a whole bunch of people that we don't necessarily know that well, but have been loyal followers, as great as that would be, hopefully maybe one day we can do like a remote at like at a venue of some kind and be able to have people see what we do live. Yes. That would be fun. But I don't know about the vacation part. Keith says I'm in. Dean Durr goes, hell yes, I'm down. So
I think it'd be a lot of fun. But I also agree with you. There's some things that are getting a little shaky with COVID, the variants, the Lambda, the Delta. My friend makes fun of it back home. She's like, well, what's next? Delta Nu? Like, why is it all the Greek alphabet? But here's the thing that's the issue. And actually, I don't know, you're friends with Paul Marshall, right? Online on Facebook. He works at KSLX in Phoenix.
I'm not.
So he's a really great guy. I love him. His on-air name's Neanderpaul. He works, it's Paul. Yeah. Neanderpaul, Mark and Paul in the morning, but, I don't know if he still goes by Neanderpaul anymore because he used to be on, KD, what was that?
Yeah, station? It doesn't matter.
Well, he went from, rock to classic rock, essentially.
Gotcha.
And so he posted today, I hope you guys all got your concerts in because it's not looking good. And I commented on that post and I said, do you think we're going to shut down again? Because that's what people are starting to infer. I don't know if you've heard about this.
Well, I've seen that the Foo Fighters here are postponing a show after a COVID infection. And unfortunately, like most times, I haven't had a chance to read it. I'm reading it with you guys. But it says, having made every effort to follow the CDC COVID protocols and local laws, there has been a confirmed COVID-19 case within the Foo Fighters organization. And out of an abundance of caution and concern for the safety of the band crew, and most of all, the fans, that they are canceling their show at the Forum in Los Angeles.
Okay. Mind you, the member who got COVID in this band was vaccinated, just to let you know. Okay. Secondly, the Foo Fighters were specifically promoting a show for vaccinated people. You know how like
Yeah.
all these bands are like, if you're vaccinated, we'll give you a discount. Like,
Right.
and so it's a little ironic that this is the show that gets postponed.
Well, and it is kind of, and the fact is that unfortunately we're seeing spikes in a lot of places again, with whether it's the new variant or the, the class or COVID classic. That's how I'm going to refer to it now, as COVID classic. But it's this is the reason why I'm still very cautious. And like even the boy, he got his first shot and he's probably going to get he's due to get his second one. I think next week or the week that I come back from New York.
Can he get it in New York if he wanted to, though?
He's not going to New York. So basically what I'm going to do is, like, before I leave, I will give his mother, his card, and, she can take him because it's just right next door at the CVS. Okay. So it's not too bad. Like it's just down the road from us. So he can get his second shot. And, hopefully now that the girl is back from her vacation in New York, we can get her vaccinated as well before they get to school. So that if they do have any of the side effects and stuff like that, they can be recovered before school starts in August.
Well, and I know California regulations are a lot stricter than Arizona, but I was talking to my friend today. She has children in school, and she said, we're going to go back to the same way they were doing it before, where it's like, oh, you get one day in school, one day off, one day in school, because of the uptick of COVID in the area. Now she lives in a highly populated area, so it makes sense. But
with our governor, man, I swear to God, our governor is making choices based on the fact that he's like an angry 5-year-old who's not going to get to play in the next game, because he's saying that schools can't tell kids they can't come in if they're unvaccinated and not wearing a mask. And I'm like, that's exactly what they should be doing. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that they should force people to go get a vaccination that they don't feel comfortable with. But at the same time, if you're not going to be responsible and do that, by my standards, responsible and do that, then yes, you absolutely should be wearing a mask.
Yeah. Well, I would think you would want to protect yourself.
You would think.
But here's the thing, though, even if you're vaccinated, and if you want to pull up the next article we have, so Ricky Rocket, he is vaccinated and still came down with COVID. And he admitted that, hey, like it wasn't, I had the vaccine, I did everything right, still got COVID, but he did say that his symptoms weren't as severe.
And that's great that it's not as severe, but at the same time, there are people out there who are getting a severe case of it, even with the vaccination. With the vaccine,
yeah.
And it says, and that's the thing, is that like right now, even being vaccinated, they're saying, like, for example, that the Johnson & Johnson shot that we got, we're going to need a booster.
Well, not just that. This past week, the FDA announced 2 things with Johnson & Johnson. Obviously, we knew the blood clots, but then they said, oh, by the way, you might long-term down the road see an autoimmune issue. Did you read that article that the FDA threw out to the Washington Post today?
Well, not today, but I saw one similar not too long ago. And I was like, and I'm kind of like, I at this point, I'm of the mindset that everything is always trying to kill me.
Yeah. Well,
like I make the joke that when you live in Arizona, like I use the quote from the movie Dune, like Arizona was created to test the faithful, because only the strong survive in Arizona. Because everything is trying to kill you. Well, the animals, the insects, the trees, the grass, everything's trying to kill you in Arizona. And somehow we managed to survive. So,
yes. At this point, I wish my friend Becca wasn't working tonight at the Rialto, because I'd put her on the call right at this moment, because something happened to her. She was hiking on Tumamuck the other night, right?
Yep.
And so as she's hiking, and she had a small flashlight, but she didn't notice that there was a rattlesnake over here, and there's a rattlesnake over here. And she believes that they might have been mating because they were friends. It looks like they were friends.
And then she got in the middle.
She got in the middle. And this one was hissing and ready to attack her. This one was like curled up, ready to. And she's like, and there's a guy walking down. She's like, stop. And he's like, what? There's snakes and I can't move. And she's in between. And at that point, she was looking at the guy. If something happens, can you help me down the hill and take me to the hospital across the street?
I mean, like within the first 4 months that we lived here, the boy got hit in the foot with one of those little, it's not a cactus, but it's one of those little plants that comes out of the ground that kind of like, if you get close enough, it'll stick you. Like you don't have to step on it. It's going to attack you. And he got one in his,
the jumping cactus,
something like that. Yeah. One of those things. And it got him in the bottom of his foot. And like for 3 days, it was so bad that he couldn't even walk. Like I was coming home from work and he was like crawling down the stairs because he like sliding on his butt. And I'm like, oh my God, like your foot's that bad? He's like, it hurts so bad. We almost took a party down to Mexico to go get like the whatever, the anti-venom or whatever it is for it, because it was going to be cheaper in Mexico. Like we almost took the 3-hour drive to Nogales.
You know what? I hate to admit it, but there was a period of time when I didn't have health insurance and I would cross the border and get the medicine I needed. So yes, I feel you on that.
Trust me. I thought about like my mom when she was snowbirding, she went and had her dental work. Like we went down 2 or 3 different times where we went down. I drove her down to Nogales.
Yeah.
And, you know, the difference was we learned after the first time that you park on the US side and walk
then you
across.
walk over.
Yeah. It's a lot easier than trying to drive through the border.
And it's so much nicer and relaxing. You can go and have lunch after, grab a few margaritas, maybe.
I mean, that in a perfect world, yes. But like when you know that you've got a 3.5-hour drive back,
that's true.
You kind of just go, I don't really want to go that far. You know, it's a tough one, but it was worth it when, you know, it's tough. It's sad because it shows that we could have a much better healthcare system if countries like Mexico and Canada are doing things so much cheaper.
Well, I mean, you have to blame the pharmaceutical companies on that. You know, like referring back to last week, the sour soap fruit. I told you about that.
Yep.
Okay. So everyone's saying, well, they're saying that there are 2 possible remedies for cancer. You know, the fruit that, I don't know if you can pull it up. Can you pull it up for us?
Is it in one?
So it's like sour and then SOP.
Okay.
And it's a fruit that is primarily in the Caribbean island, like Caribbean area, and then Central America and South America. I tried looking it up online. It's very expensive to buy it. I mean, well, in comparison to medicine, probably not. I mean, it's $100 if you want to buy. Are
you talking about this particular fruit?
Yes.
The guanabana?
Well, there it is. If you look, put the words together because it's one word, the sour soap. Okay. And put cancer treating. Throw in cancer treating and you'll see. So this is one of the things that are going kind of viral with everyone. I wish I had known about it sooner because, you know, my
why can't I spell cancer? There we go.
Yeah. So my uncle had been suffering from colon cancer, took every experimental treatment out there. And I wish I had known about this. They say the interesting thing is you'll find articles where they say, you know, this is an alternative. You know, let's see if this is the article where it says, including how it might help fight cancer. It also, but they'll say, oh, it might, but we don't have enough information. Of course you don't have enough information because the pharmaceutical companies don't want to find you more information because then that would mean you'd have a cheaper treatment.
Yep.
My uncle paid $100,000 for an experimental pill to try to prolong his life. He paid the money. It didn't do anything for him. You know,
it's funny how the hypocrisy of, somebody that sells, you know, marijuana, you know, up until recently, somebody who sells marijuana, or even if you wanted to get even deeper and say, you know, like cocaine or anything like that. Yeah. Oh, those are bad drug dealers. However, you know, I remember at one point, like when I hurt my back, when I ruptured the disc in my back, my chiropractor was saying, we can do this treatment and physical therapy and it'll get better. Whereas, you know, the regular medical doctors are like, here, take this Flexerol, here, take this Vicodin, here, take all these drugs, to a point where I'm like, I can't get through I can't get through a day without taking these opiates. And then on top of that, like, you know, like I got to deal with the pain, but now I've also got an addiction to them.
Yeah. Well, and it's more than just the addiction to that. Think about the other pills that we put into our you know, bodies. Like a doctor could prescribe you all these, like my stepfather is on 20 different pills right now to, you know, kind of maintain his health. And the fear in that, to do it that way rather than herbally, find alternative methods of, you know, treating your body, is your body will stop producing what you need. So you're taking this pill that produces what you need, but then your body is like, okay, well, since the pill does it, no need to produce whatever, you know, was lacking.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like, it's kind of like what the serotonin. What was the MDMA that was so popular, the drug. Yeah. And then all of a sudden everybody's depleted of this serotonin to keep them level and make their lives, you know, normal.
And that's a big reason why I am not a fan of prescriptions. I like, even if I have a headache, I don't even take aspirin or anything. I'd rather just, you know, do like an herbal tea and relax.
Yeah. You know? I mean, it's gotten to a point where, like, you know, I've talked about it with some of my friends, and I've said, you know, I got to a point where I can live with the discomfort that I have physically. You know, my back still gets strained if I twist if I twist and sneeze at the same time, I'm out of commission for a week. Yeah. You know, like, it's bad. But luckily, I have someone in my life that can help me with that physical part. You know, like, I have that now that I didn't have 10, 15 years ago when I had the initial injury. So between, you know, going to a chiropractor and getting a regular massage, much better. Yeah. If it's really bad, I'll take a couple of ibuprofen or some aspirin and call it a day.
But if you can avoid that, I would, because it's hard on your kidneys. But then again, alcohol is too. So here I am. I'm a walking
contradiction.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, and that's the thing is that, like, you know, we've touched upon the fact that since you know, marijuana became legal, CBD became legal, both medically and recreationally in Arizona, that, you know, I've kind of dabbled with it to kind of keep me even and kind of help me with some of the anxiety that I realized that I was already carrying, but that I really came to know from the last year of life.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's my sister, my youngest sister for years has been saying how it's a super, like, marijuana, okay, call it a drug, but it's a super drug because it can make you feel better. And my middle sister has used it to help with her issues because she was having stomach issues and severe back pain issues. And rather than shoveling pills down her throat, she was using marijuana as her medicinal release.
And it makes you think, okay, so is the reason why it took this long to legalize in a few states, is it because of the pharmaceutical lobbyists and, you know, it could be also the lobbyists on the side of alcohol, right? Because which is weird. I would think more pharmaceutical lobbyists than anything else, but I mean, think about how long it's taken to get this far.
Well, and you could go further down in the sense that, you know, decriminalizing marijuana means that now how many people are going to get out of jail that have been in jail for so long? How many of these privately owned prisons have been leasing prisoners to do migrant work, where they're only making pennies on the dollar comparative to what the prisons are making for leasing out.
And all they did was have it on them.
It's pretty much, it pretty much is legalized slavery, you know? And so now that you're decriminalizing it, that means that you have to wipe some people 20 years of their life has been spent in prison for having a criminal amount of marijuana, which was so low that it could have been as much as an ounce. Well, an ounce of marijuana is not that big of a deal when you think about it.
So you know, I'm I'm guessing since you're bringing this up, you saw Chuck Schumer's speech that they're trying to push legislation to make it federally legal.
I saw that, and I'm very glad that they are, and it should be. It really should be, because
I think there will be pushback though in states like Idaho, Utah. I think you'll see some pushback.
I think you'll be surprised that you won't. You know why? Because the average age of voters is so much younger now that, as much as we like to, joke about millennials and stuff like that, at the same time, they are the ones that have the most power.
But this is where I'm going to say, yes, there are more younger people that can vote. Problem is they don't choose to vote. I was talking to my friend back home. That's
changing a lot more now.
I was talking to my friend back home, like, are you excited for your governor recall election? And because I don't know if you heard the backstory on Gavin Newsom from California. So he made a deadline for the paperwork to be turned in. And this was actually going to help him out, And so the deadline to turn in your paperwork to say, I'm, a Democrat, Republican, independent, whatever. He didn't turn in the paperwork on time. And so he goes to the secretary and says, hey, is there any way you can just put on my political affiliation on the ballot? Just, give me a pass. And she's like, I can't help you. I'm not going to break the rules because you're the governor. So on that ballot coming out, and I told my friend, you have to take a picture of your ballot if you do mail-in. I don't know. And she's like, I don't know if I do mail-in. I'm like, well, how'd you vote in the last election? But she didn't mention anything. So I'm like, okay, we're going to change the subject. But take a photo of the ballot, because apparently Gavin Newsom is going to be at the bottom of the ballot, and the party affiliation will be unaffiliated. And so you'll see at the very top, this guy that I love following on YouTube, his name's Meet Kevin. He's a financial guy. He is running as a Democrat. So I think he might be the only Democrat other than the governor. So you're going to see him at the top, followed by, Republican, independent, whatever, whoever's running. And the theory is, because of this, a lot of people that are Democrat and Democratic voters in California vote blue regardless of the name.
Right.
And so now he's put himself in a situation where the other guy, the guy that's 28, could become the governor of California.
And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Beth, will you do me the kindness of bringing up the Loudwire Pandora story real quick?
Oh, absolutely. Now this is an exciting one. So now we don't usually talk about other streaming services, not too often. And actually, you know what? Let me pull it up from my site. Hold on one second. Actually, you know what? I'll just tell you about it. So what ended up happening is Pandora decided to do something special for all of those different bands and musicians that hit the billion views streaming mark online. And so there is a rock section and there is a classic rock section for this. And I'll let you know, and you probably know a few of the rockers that have already hit 1 billion streams online. So we have, of course, Linkin Park, Metallica, Five Finger Death Punch, Foo Fighters, and Tool, among others. But if you want to go into the select genres of it, okay, so Hard Rock Billionaires, their streaming section on Pandora features Linkin Park, Five Finger Death Punch, Foo Fighters, Metallica, Tool, 3 Days Grace, Breaking Benjamin, AC/DC, Nickelback, which, are you surprised about Nickelback? I was surprised by that. 3 billion or a billion. I can't believe people stream so much with Nickelback, but okay.
Well, there are Canadians.
Yeah, that's true. Three Doors Down, Seether, Disturbed, Shinedown, Stain, The Black Keys, Skillet, Evanescence, Korn, Daughtry, Rise Against, Godsmack, Incubus, Chevelle, Cage the Elephant, Papa Roach. Now the classic rock billionaires, yep, everything we expect: the Beatles, the Eagles, Queen, Pink Floyd, Fleetwood Mac, and more. I'm mad with the article itself though, because Led Zeppelin's on that list and they didn't think Led Zeppelin was important enough to put at the top. Like the Beatles, followed by Led Zeppelin, followed by Pink Floyd. What the
Followed
heck?
by Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the fact is that, you know, it's a difficult way to kind of figure out whose worth is what, because, you know, it's not just in a particular market. This is a worldwide thing. So yeah, there's going to be people in other countries that don't despise Nickelback on the level that we do. And that's why they have 1 billion followers. And there might be an Asian band.
Or do you think it's just them and they keep playing the video? I'm going to keep playing it until I get to 1 billion.
And that's a good point as well. It's not necessarily, you know, is it 1 billion streams by the same people? Or is it 1 billion different people streaming the same stuff?
And that's the other thing I was trying to figure out the other day, because my friend was like, oh, you know, as soon as you start throwing videos on YouTube, I'll keep watching to up your views. And I'm like, no, I don't think it works like that on YouTube, because it goes based off your IP address.
Yeah. And that's the difference. And, you know, I mean, there's something to be said for that. Like, it should be on the up and up. Where, okay, just because I've watched the same video a dozen times doesn't necessarily mean that it should get 12 thumbs from me because I've watched it 12 times. You know, it should be more based on how many people actually watched, not how many times did this one idiot watch one thing. You know, because think about it.
Then you can pay like 5 employees to just keep doing that. That's what they do every day.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is that, like, yeah, how many times have I posted, you know, have I gone on YouTube and, you know, clicked the copy and paste for a particular Soundgarden song because I love that song so much. So I keep posting it on Facebook. Like, that's not a way to, you know, like, yeah, Soundgarden could be the most popular band on the planet in the history of all time, just based on how many times I've played them. Okay. But that's not how it should work. Yeah. You know, like, okay, I've bought 3 copies of Super Unknown, and yeah, it's a drop in the well for their 1 million, you know, record sales. But at the same time, I've bought it three different times. So it shouldn't count. But when it comes to an item, that's different. If I'm going to stream it 3 times, it's a lot different.
Yeah.
You know,
by the way, Dean Anderson's calling us out. Not all here are Nickelback haters. Okay. I can appreciate that. But
we still love you, Dean. You know, not quite as much as we did 5 minutes before you posted that, but it's okay. We still love you.
It's okay. Actually, back in the day, I worked with someone who used to call them nickel hack. Oh, I got to play nickel hack again.
Well, but you know what the sad part is? And it's funny because hindsight truly is 2020. We created the monster of Nickelback because their first single wasn't bad.
Yeah, it was really good, actually.
You know, the This Is How You Remind Me. When that
I hate to admit it, but I love that.
It was a really good song, especially if you had just gotten out of a bad relationship.
Oh, and you're
something.
Like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. You know, I mean, it's like, I don't give a shit what anybody says. I was driving with the kid today, and Rollin' by Limp Bizkit came through the iPod. So I can't even blame. I can't even blame somebody else. It's not like the radio station played it. It was on my iPod, and I still love it. And the best part was, and Keith will get a kick out of it, it was the version that the Undertaker used as his entrance music. So it's cleaned up lyrics, and you hear that whole dead man walking before it starts, you know? So it's,
well, here's the go-to though. If you have someone in your car and someone's like, oh, this music is horrible, you say, oh yeah, that radio station sucks. And then you go to your radio and turn it to a different station.
Actually, no, if somebody tells me that a song sucks in my car, get the fuck out. Walk, motherfucker, walk. You don't like my music? Like, it's like I turn into what's his name? Chris, what's his face from Rush Hour. Don't you never put your hands on another man's radio? Like, what are you doing?
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
And that is a point of contention for a lot of people, the radio touching. I will say, when I'm riding in certain cars, I know someone who's very OCD, and the line has to be perfectly for the volume. It has to stay this way, And I like it loud. And he'll say, no, you should do it with the steering wheel. If you like it loud, it has to stay, the line has to stay up and down, not this way. I hate that.
It's one of but I'm that guy. I'm the guy that like, the volume has to be at 15, 20, 25, or if we're rocking out 35, unless I'm all by myself and I really want to go crazy. And I think the final number on my dial is like 38 for volume.
Yeah. And then you have to roll down the windows and share the love with everyone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And not only just the music, but me screaming it at the top of my lungs. Sometimes you'll get the good performance if it's the song that I really like Locomotive by Guns N' Roses.
Oh yeah.
That was my warm-up song that I used to play in the car on my way to band practice.
Yeah.
Because if I could do all of Locomotive, just the speed, the cadence, the timing of that whole song, if I could get through that in the car, by the time I got to band practice, I was warmed up, my diaphragm's open, I'm ready to go. And then I can sing any of the stuff that we were writing because it wasn't even near the level that was there. So, but yeah, it's funny how that works. Like I need some loud. And speaking of loud songs that I really like, I gotta tell you. So yesterday when we finished up the show, I managed to find the new Iron Maiden video.
And if you have not seen it, you need to watch it.
It's awesome because not only is the song good, it's a 7-minute song. They didn't skimp on it, but the video is outstanding. It's all cartoon, and Eddie makes his appearance that he's supposed to have, but it was a really, really well put together and well thought out video.
The writing on the walls.
It's really fantastic. I would love to show it to you. We never can because it'll get us kicked off.
I will say, well, should we go through some of the comments, see how people are liking it?
Well, is it in the?
Yeah.
Are you okay? So here we go. I got it right here.
That new Iron Maiden song, though I've never heard them sound so Southern rock. Not sure about the production on Bruce's voice on first listen, but really enjoyed the writing on the wall. Different kind of theme to what Maiden have done before, but still very much a proper Adrian track. So I
like how it said, "Be right back. Gonna stick it on repeat until I go to sleep."
Oh yes. Summing up Iron Maiden's new release, the writing on the wall, crunchy as yes.
Say it.
Nope.
Say it.
Nope.
Say it. You're quoting. It's not even you saying it. You're quoting somebody else.
Well, okay. Crunchy as expletive.
Oh.
I quoted it.
Keith and the Deans were really hoping for the F-bomb. Oh my goodness. I was very impressed. I was really, and for those that couldn't figure it out, it was crunchy as fuck. But yeah, it really, like, the video got me, it made me listen to the lyrics of the song even more. Yeah. Because, it's got it basically gives a depiction of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. It's got some sort of devil and some sort of messiah. Watch the video.
Yes.
Really, really watch it. If you can, watch it on a bigger screen. Don't watch it on your phone. Watch it on your computer. Plug your computer into the 60-inch. It's epic. It's really quite epic. And for, I love Iron Maiden, but not on the level that the craziest people, their craziest hardcore fans.
But this made you a crazy hardcore fan.
I'm definitely crazy about this video. I was very impressed.
And to the point where I want to hear this at their next show. Like, that's what I want to hear.
Oh yeah. I definitely would. Yes, Trevor, it's spelled fuck. F-U-C-K fuck. Yeah, maybe we'll get Beth to spell it at least. Hey. And there's Keith. Keith's got a big say it.
hey, but really quick. Okay. So we were talking about this earlier. So last night, sometimes I can't sleep at night. I have this thing, I wake up at 4
and messages old McGee at 4:00 in the morning, just as he's trying to sleep.
Yeah. So what I tend to do is I'll go to bed at, a late hour and then wake up at 4 a.m. My sleep schedule is completely off. It's like I should have been on a morning show, but like I'm not right now. So last night I couldn't go to sleep and I was scrolling through TikTok, the app that obviously, well, now Dino's on it. Finally, I got him on it. You're still not on it. And I'm looking at all these videos and there's this new trend where people say, and I don't know if you can share my video. People say,
I'm going to try.
People say the phrase that broke you. And, everyone, and usually they'll say, oh, I cheated on you, or, oh, we're not getting married, or, these like crazy things where it's so serious. And TikTok was not meant to be just serious. It's meant to be for fun. I mean, we're stuck indoors during a pandemic. It's supposed to lighten up the mood, right? And so I decided to create my own video. Took a few seconds. I'm like, wow, this is really fun. I enjoy making videos. I should be a videographer. Okay.
You can start your own OnlyFans there, Beth.
Well, I don't know about all that. I don't know how I'd, no, I'm good. Let's see if this plays. Okay.
Hang on.
Okay. So
could you hear that through mine?
I can't hear it.
Okay. Cause I'm trying to see, it's like,
so basically, since you can't hear it, I'll just,
oof. Yeah, okay. It's got to, for so some reason.
I'll just sum it up. I'll sum it up. It
got really loud in my headphones all of a sudden.
So you can see it on my Instagram account if you're following me on Instagram.
Beth can put the link in the comments.
I'll put, or you could put the link in the comments too. So pretty much it says, okay, the sentence that broke me, and I'm trying to be all serious with it. And then the guy says, hold up. You've been scrolling for too long, because that's what pops up on TikTok when you've been scrolling for hours on end. And I'm trying to say the sentence that broke me is the fact that I need to stop scrolling.
It's funny because like I found a meme that is one of the nurses from the TV show Scrubs. I don't know. Did you ever watch Scrubs?
Not really, but I do like Zach Braff.
Okay, well, yeah. On that sitcom, if you've watched it even once or twice, there was the one nurse, Laverne, the older black nurse, and somebody had a post where it almost looked as though they like took a shot of her while she's sitting down and looking up, and it says, all right, you scrolled long enough, time to wipe your ass and go back to work or something like that. And it's funny because the way I found it was that's what I was doing. I was just like, while I'm sitting there doing my business, I'm scrolling. And all of a sudden this meme goes, you've scrolled long enough, go wipe your ass.
Go wipe your butt. Well, it's interesting you mentioned it. I don't know if this ever happened to you, but years ago, the thing was to bring your laptop into the bathroom. Did you ever do that?
No. I had,
that's pretty nasty.
I mean, I was the guy that had subscriptions to Rolling Stone, to Playboy, to Maxim, and to Stuff, because, you go buy one and it gives you a little thing that says you can get a year's worth for $4.72. And I'm like, yeah, okay. 12 things to read on the toilet. Well,
yeah.
And Rolling Stone for me was like the Wall Street Journal for other people.
Yeah.
And, so I had my Spin, I had my Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
And so
but I need to point out, but could you make money off of your knowledge from Rolling Stone?
I've been trying. What I do here, that's all the knowledge. What do you think I come up? Why do you think I still have all this shit in my brain? It's all the stuff that I read in Rolling Stone. And the sad part is I had 5 years worth of Rolling Stone magazines from basically probably I'd say like from 90 to 95 that I had moved in a box. It was an old like stereo box. That's how big it was. You remember how big stereo boxes were with all, and it's funny, I still have the stereo, but like I had that box, and it was finally one of those things where my mom looked at me when I was leaving New York, when I was leaving the city, moving back home. And I had just kind of called her and said, get a van, come to my house, I'm coming home kind of thing. It was pretty quick and it was necessary at the time. But she kind of looked at me and she's like, do you really need all those magazines? And I left 5 years worth of Rolling Stone magazines on the curb in front of my apartment building in New York City. And it breaks my heart.
I hate to say it though. I know it does break your heart. But do you want to be a hoarder? That's scary. Have you seen those houses with stacks and stacks of newspapers?
But I wasn't that. You should know me by now. I'm OCD enough that everything had a place and put into a box and put into a spot with another box that fit on it like Tetris. Yeah. Okay. So it's one of those things where like it was properly stored, but at the same time, like what's killing me is I could have made some money off of them because like I sold off all my Star Wars toys.
You really think you could have made money off them? Beth,
I made enough money off of my old Star Wars and G.I. Joe toys that I paid off my truck.
So, wow, that's pretty good. But I mean, but that's different. Toys are different. Magazines, I don't know. Is there, I mean, well, let's ask everyone in the audience.
Well, yeah. I mean, think about it like this. Short answer, yes, Mike does want to be a hoarder. No, actually, that's the thing is that like I have gotten down to the point where Terry has been like, are you going to just like disappear in the middle of the night one day? And I'm like, no, why? And she's like, because all of your shit fits into like 2 tubs. Like, and I'm like, for the most part, like all my clothes fit into 2 Rubbermaid tubs. And like, I don't have a lot of stuff anymore.
That's good. Well, like I'm all for being a minimalist. Like the less, the better.
Like I even make the joke that like when we move, you know, all the furniture in the house is for sale. Which, by the way, folks, this lovely kids twin bed with a nice whole frame behind it, okay, is for sale. So hit me up.
How much are you selling? How much are you selling it for?
I'm asking for $400 or best offer. So if somebody's got a reasonable offer. You know, that
someone's going to be like, I'll give you 20. I'll give you 20, man.
The bed's only about 5 years old. We bought it for $800. I think that, you know, taking off $100 a year has been pretty, you know, especially it's in great shape. There's storage for toys underneath. It's a perfect first bed for a little kid that would, that they can live in it until they outgrow it, you know, because that's the only reason why I'm selling it is because the boy don't fit on it anymore.
Because they're supposed to sleep lengthwise because I remember sitting. Okay.
So you've seen the bed. Yeah. It's long across. This is the way that you would sleep,
short,
but short width.
I was kind of thinking, well, maybe you had really short kids when they were first growing up.
Well, that's the funny thing is the girl who happens to be older still fits in the bed. It's just not the bed that she wants. She's a little bent out of shape because I'm like, look, the only reason why I switched the beds in the rooms was because your brother didn't fit in it anymore. He almost fell off the bed at 12, you know, like he's tall. He almost looks me in the eye at this point, you know? So it was just one of those things where he needed the bigger bed, but we're at the point where we just want to sell every bed and just get mattress, box springs, and metal frames.
Oh, by the way, Trevor's saying 5 years old is old for a bed, man.
I know, but it's in great shape. And figure that the kid only lived in it for half a week every week.
Well, I mean, Trevor's, no sales. How much could he get for it in your mind?
Again, make me an offer I can't refuse because, you know, and the mattress it's a damn memory foam mattress. It's in great shape, you know? So
what if someone said, I'll give you a free membership for a gym for a year for you and Terry?
Nope. She works at a gym and we have a free gym in our condo complex.
That's true.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Good point. Okay. So
$20 in a box of tissues.
Yeah. Okay, I see where you're headed with that.
I don't think that was happening in that bed. That bed's still clean.
Uh-oh.
I mean, honestly, I would go as low as like $250 for it. But the whole point is I got to buy another bed to replace this bed for the girl. Yeah. You know, I got to buy her at least a double bed.
Does she really need a new one right now? I mean, she likes it.
No, she hates it. That's the problem.
Oh, okay.
She hates it because she went from having a queen bed to having this because I had to put the boy in the queen. You know, he just couldn't fit in this bed anymore. He just got too big, you know, and it's a shame because it's a great bed. Like I could, if I wasn't as tall as I am, I'd sleep on it. The mattress is awesome.
I hate to say it. If I was your daughter, I'd be like, sorry, I'm sleeping on the couch. The couch is now my bedroom for a while.
Yeah, no, she pulled the other thing and just said, well, I'm just going to sleep in my queen bed at mom's house. You know, and that's it. So I'm like, okay.
She's like, I won't come home until you finally buy me a decent size.
Pretty much. Like that's kind of what it is. Like she'll spend as much time as she wants here, but she wants to sleep in her big bed at her mom's house. So I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, okay, being a feisty little teenage girl,
how it is.
Angsty little teenage girl. She's just way too much me. At that age, it's torturous.
Trevor said, honestly, you may get 100 for it. So
get her a race car.
Well, it really depends on the person you're, selling it to. And then you could also think about putting it on consignment. Have you thought about that? I
haven't because I don't know where I'd take it. But
okay,
I just basically all I'm looking for is to get what it would cost to get a new double bed. A new mattress and box spring with a full size.
Well, then a good offer would be like, hey, I'll trade you this bed for that bed. Would you do that?
No, unfortunately, when it comes to a mattress and box spring, I want a brand new one at this point.
Oh, because of bed bugs.
Well, bed bugs, COVID, it's just whatever. I don't know what the house looked like. I know what my house, you've been in my house, and when you guys came in, I'm like, sorry, it's dirty. And you're like, well, what the hell are you talking about? So, I live with a person that is crazy. Like even after I clean, she comes back and at the end of the week cleans again. I love that. So it's one of those things. But yeah, well, Trevor, I'm not talking about a Lamborghini. I'm talking about going to Costco and buying a damn, full-size bed for my kid. That's it. At this point, I'm looking to buy a futon.
I think that's hilarious. I want to sell this and buy a Lambo with the money.
Yeah, I'm not looking to sell a Yugo to buy a Mercedes. Like I'm not crazy. I'm realistic.
We are headed to that time.
Yes, and
it's been fun.
It has, and for everybody, I may or may not be around. I'm definitely not going to be here next Friday, so you'll have a special guest hopefully for next Friday. But there is a possibility I may be coming live from the 315 on Thursday. We'll see how that plays out. So to all my 315 fans, that's your announcement. I will be in Syracuse as of next Tuesday for a week. So hopefully I'll see some of my people. Keith, I know I definitely am going to meet up with you, brother. We got to do some hugging. It's been too long, my friend.
And of course, this show I'm going to post up on our YouTube channel.
Yep.
So shortly thereafter, we post this, finish up this little broadcast on Facebook Live. I'll post it up.
And hopefully, I'm hopefully by the time I come back from New York, the computer will be fixed. I called my buddy and said, hey, can you take it for a week? It's no rush. Like I have the secondary, but I want to drop off the Mac to you so that we can get it fixed and try and get the hard drive. Because I had downloaded all of the previous shows so that we could start loading them onto the YouTube page. So hopefully Beth, when she gets bored at 4:00 in the morning, might just save a show and start posting them randomly.
I may. I don't know. I think people like my TikTok videos better. Okay, I'm kidding.
I'll do that too. You can go crazy on it, but it's just a matter of, saving the Facebook feed and loading it onto YouTube. So
no,
hopefully
I definitely
you guys
will
all be able to catch up.
Yes.
You guys will be able to catch up on stuff, and we always recycle our jokes, or at least we have continuously running jokes.
Yes,
you can be like the cool kids and get in on the inside jokes. So, but thank you all for watching today. We love you all. Thanks for being loyal followers. And like we said, like our pages, go find the YouTube page. It's the Loudhouse Podcast.
The Loudhouse Podcast Network.
And is it the network on YouTube as well?
So that's the name of the network, or the YouTube channel, and then the individual videos are the Loudhouse Podcast, and then whatever the show, Rock 101 or Today's Happy Hour. So
cool. And then once I have the computer working and I can access, I'll put more details into the videos. That's what I do at the end of every show, is go back and get all the hashtags and @s and everything, so that everything's up to date. All right, Beth, get to say Dino's line.
I do. How can you miss us if we never go away?
Good enough. All right, kids. We'll see you next Thursday for Rock and Roll 101. Bye.
Bye.